joined by Ryan, one of our NutriMed team, and of course, we're always working on developing new nutraceuticals. A couple that we're coming down the pike. We're working on a new form of Mountain Red Velvet with new capsulation to get to the terminal ileum, so it forms myocells and delivers those stem cell regenerating fragile biomolecules to the tissues of the body. We are working on a new avian immunoglobulin, 26 immunoglobulins that actually will block most of the major pathogens for humans. And we need to get a vanilla flavor, which we're working on. Once we have that achieved in the next few months, we'll be launching that as well. Recently we launched Cell Defense Plus, which is not like any other curcumin on the planet. We had one of the most advanced technology for cell defense, which has a bioperin slow-release technology, but now we've gone beyond that. This gets rid of cancer mother cells, epigenetically stimulates stem cell regeneration, turns off inflammation and allows DNA repair. It gets rid of what's called white fat cells and converts them to brown fat to help you lose weight and reverse insulin resistance. It helps to reverse the ion channel blockage for minerals that get in and epigenetically turn on genes. These are pretty amazing technologies, and I want to go over some of our recent consults, because when you listen to the program, either on the firing line, which is hour 3 today, you'll be able to hear some of the latest protocols. For GERD, or gastroesophageal reflux disease, I recommend first chew Gastro Heal, that is zinc carnosine. Chew 2 tablets 4 times a day. You can drop it to 1 once it settles. IBS Care, which is a slow release or gut release form of carnitine to normalize the peristaltic waves of the myenteric nerve plexus of your bowel wall, your stomach, and esophagus. NutriImmune, this coats the esophagus and the airways with immunoglobulins to prevent inflammatory changes, leakage of the columnar cells in your esophagus and your GI tract. And then, of course, berberstatin, 2 capsules twice a day to get rid of pathogens, fungi, nanobacteria, etc. And Living Probiotic and Living Probiotic Ultra. The Living Probiotic is twice a day. The Living Probiotic Ultra, that, by the way, that is the Roselle 6 strain from the Pasteur Institute in Paris. It's the most popular, well-researched strain on the planet. And the most powerful strain is the Living Probiotic Ultra. Now, you can take this and it'll prevent food poisoning, viral and bacterial enteritis, and even, really serious infections. And then, of course, Nutriodine. So that's the basic starter protocol. We can do more advanced things if we have to, if people have specific problems. The next area that I want to touch on is for cancer therapy. And again, it doesn't matter what kind of cancer it is. You need to be on a ketogenic alkaline diet and take Maligna Arrest. This is developed by Dr. Sven Georgi. It's used in 26 countries. We include it in our protocols because we search around the world for the most powerful formulas, natural formulas. This actually blocks what's called the sugar or hexose monophosphate shunt pathway. So it starves the cancer of energy. We use that with ellagic acid from the terminal chibulia plant that has 300 times more ellagic acid that repairs DNA and actually makes cells go through apoptosis if they're beyond repair. Then we have, of course, Maligna Block. The Maligna Block is 2 capsules 3 times a day along with the ellagic 2 3 times a day. The Maligna Block is sulforaphane glycosinolate that actually repairs the DNA again by a different mechanism or commit apoptosis. Power C, this is extremely important for autoimmune inflammatory conditions, whether it's diabetes, autoimmune, things like lupus or rheumatoid arthritis or cancer. And we're talking about small dosages if you're dealing with a minor problem, but if you've got cancer, we're probably talking about 9 to 12 capsules 3 times a day, and you can make a smoothie by opening them. And for every 3 Power C, you take 1 menaquinone 7 or full vitamin K2 3 times a day. So if you're taking, let's say, 9 Power C Plus, you want to take 3 menaquinone 7. Then we're trying to repair again get rid of those cancer mother cells or stem cells, which, by the way, in every case, after someone recovers, he goes in remission, even from conventional chemo, they all have cancer mother cells that can later reemerge as a new cancer. And they will become drug resistant and radiation resistant after the transformation if they do reactivate. So Cell Defense Plus will actually get rid of those cells. MycoD2, again, is our oncomycin, which is ergothioneine, the first receptor activated when your stem cells work, but also help to suppress cancer cells. And NutriDefense. NutriDefense is the most powerful stimulant for your NK cells to find and kill cancer cells and also disrupt the viral capsid of all RNA and DNA viruses, including Zika virus or other viruses like West Nile virus and chikungunya. Omega Supreme Krill and Neurogen are very important to rebuild the tissue membranes, the phospholipids. The krill oil is the most powerful antioxidant outside of the astaxanthin, outside of polyphenol and NutriDefense. And Neurogen is docosahexaenoic acid. So this combination of Omega Supreme Krill and Neurogen, very powerful. Now, cancer cells generate, by the way, a lot of cytokines and also free radicals. And the most important of those is to start off with selenium cruciferate, both the minerals and Vitamin Mineral Max and Minerals Plus, which are a protein amino acid chelate, and cell detox glutathione. And I can't tell you how important this is for diabetes. It's been discovered in mice, recently just published, that if you take glutathione, and we have the acetylglutathione and cell detox glutathione, it literally turns off the inflammatory changes of leukotriene B4 that cause insulin resistance and ion channel blockage that causes the diabetic inflammatory changes to blood vessels and brain cells. So very important. And of course, Nutri-Trala, which is long-acting alpha-lipoic acid with the R and other isomers in a slow-release matrix. It's the most powerful form of alpha-lipoic acid available to recycle fat and water-soluble antioxidants, because people with cancer and autoimmune disease, there's additional levels of care. We can do gene-based cancer therapies. We can use mild hyperbaric oxygen with a ketogenic diet and ozone. And we can do lymphocyte activation therapies in clinics outside the United States. There has been research here with prostate cancer and what's called lymphocyte activation, but there are clinics in Mexico and Europe that actually can do lymphocyte activation, where they take your blood, find the lymphocytes, know the cancer RNA, and actually activate them in the laboratory to attack your cancer and give it back to you by intravenous, the amplified lymphocytes. So that's available. So it gives you an idea that there's an incredible range of therapies now. Never take radiation. Only take what we call gene-based cancer therapy, which is off-label use of either chemo or non-chemo agents and or nutraceuticals. Another question we had was periodontal disease and tooth infection. And you want to start off with bone generator to rebuild the membranous bone. Membranous bone doesn't become less dense. It actually retracts away from the tooth roots and actually gets thinner and narrower. So you want to use bone generator 3 to 6 capsules a half hour after the 2 largest meals of the day. Allison Med that penetrates through the biofilm. And by the way, I recommend Jason toothpaste, which has xylitol, because xylitol will help get rid of the the plaque or the tartar, and gets rid of that tartar and plaque that creates a biofilm to block the normal antibiotics. But Allison Med will go through that. Nutridyne will go through that, say with a HydroFloss machine, or you can use Silver 100 in the HydroFloss. Changes the charges of the water molecules to pull the plaque and the tartar off your teeth. So HydroFloss, we're going to put that in our little Amazon web store, a few pieces of equipment that we don't carry that Amazon can certainly ship for you, whether it's the Sinupulse Elite or the HydroFloss or special trampolines or other little gear that may be helpful to use with our NutriMed technology. GastroHeal, of course, very important to heal the gums. Zinc carnosine. CoQ10 ubiquinol. This is not the regular CoQ10, which, by the way, we have the only CoQ10 that doesn't polymerize or crystallize in the world. And our CoQ10 ubiquinol is super absorbed. It's for your brain, for your tissues, and it's amazing how, along with the GastroHeal, it'll heal your gums and your cavitations or nica. MyCell D3. It's important to have adequate vitamin D3 levels for your body to heal. Full vitamin K2 for the bones, to reheal the bones. Myco D2, Minerals Plus, and of course to rebuild the enamel in your teeth and attach the Sharp A fibers, which are collagen fibers. You need Collagen Max and Mountain Red Velvet. Usually take 2 caps of the Mountain Red, open one and put it under the tongue and swallow after 10 minutes. And those fragile molecules go directly from your subungual area under your tongue directly in your bloodstream. That gives you an idea. We can use also Lumen Photon in what's called a NiCO setting. We can use MicroPulse, which is a Schumann resonance generator field, to regenerate the tissues and increase the stem cells by 400%. And if you're really bad and you've got your teeth are falling on your head, we can use mild hyperbarics and other technologies. You can also use peptides. We have peptides from the Russian Academy of Sciences and European physicians. These are not available to regular people, but they are available through me for you to get peptides that actually regenerate your tissues, and we have also stem cell transplants. So those can be done too if you're really, really far gone. And I think it's superior to regenerate your tissues rather than getting titanium implants. Although those are possible, you want to see a biological dentist and make sure there's no materials intolerance, and there are blood tests for that materials intolerance to make sure you're not going to have a rejection problem or inflammatory problem or develop a site of infection around the implant. Prostate hypertrophy, and we got very frequent questions on this. Prostate flow, 2 soft gels twice a day. Xenoestrogen detox, it's the xenotoxins that make your prostate gland grow. NutriDefense to kill off the pathogens and boost your natural killer cell. Cell Defense Plus to heal the prostatic tissue because it's getting precancerous heavy metals and xenotoxins. Hormone Synergy to prevent conversion to female hormone because it's the female hormones that will actually make the prostate gland grow. And Allison Med, 1 capsule twice a day at least to 1 4 times a day. And Men's Max to make sure your male hormones are being released from the sex hormone binding globulin. You can also add Nutriodine and Silver 100. But prostate's not an easy thing because a lot of times people have chronic, not only things like E. coli, but they have fungi. They may have Trichomonas vaginalis, prostatism, or in the epididymis, and so they may have what we call subclinical infections that are stimulating the prostate gland to expand and grow. So that's what's happening there. And let's see. Let's look at the next issue. It gives you an idea. I mean, you don't need to use drugs. By the way, if you want to measure your prostate to see if you're at risk of prostate cancer, you do a free and combined PSA, not just a regular. And the free and combined is a little more expensive, but it's covered by your insurance. And if it shows it's high risk, then you do a transrectal ultrasound and needle biopsy and look for pathology. You never rush into chemo. We've been getting gold seed therapy and radiation. It's ridiculous. It's been estimated in the last decade 1.5 million men in America alone have had unnecessary surgery, ended up losing control of their bladder, could no longer get erections, and lost the neurovascular bundles. This is stupid activity by doctors that overtreat something that is in many cases so indolent and slow. And if you took our nutraceuticals, especially for a cancer treatment, your body will clean it up without having to, and even using gene-based off-label use of nutraceuticals and drugs to actually turn off the genes that cause the cancer to amplify. Let's have a look at the next one here now. Heart pain, and people get angina. First thing is cardiovasc, and if it's a small woman, say 15 drops. If it's a man, 30 to 45 drops for a big man, or 1 to 3 capsules. For a female, 1, a larger female, 2, or a male, or a larger male, 3 capsules 3 times a day. Supernox for a small female, 1 tablet 3 times a day. For a larger male, 2 to 3 tablets. This increases nitric oxide production. You want to make tetrahydrobiopterin, which helps you make nitric oxide. You want to use BioLVR, superfolate, powermethyl B12, and the big guy is called Semethyl. 77% SS isomer. Semethyl will help you make the methylation pathways to get rid of homocysteine, uric acid, and also to make nitric oxide. And you can test it with the test strips with Berkeley, Berkeley test strips. We have Omega Supreme Krill. This is essential if you have vascular disease or having angina. You want to be on Omega Supreme Krill. 2 soft gels twice a day, and then an Omega Supreme, at least 1 soft gel twice a day. This is made from small fish in Norway on the ship, and every batch is tested for heavy metals, excipients, and solvents. So there's no comparison to any other product anywhere in the world. Our Omega Supreme Krill is the only manufacturer low temperature that preserves the astaxanthin. So we have 2,000 micrograms, not 17 as in Mega Reds. VascuCare, this is propionyl L-carnitine, and your heart loves it. If you're having trouble with hypertension or early heart failure, which, by the way, is part of hypertension. Everybody who's hypertensive is in basically we call phase 0 of congestive heart failure. They may not yet be blowing up, but hypertension is your blood vessels are not pumping the 70 to 80% of your blood flow, and you're starting to build it up in tissues. And your compensation, which is angiotensin converting enzymes and autonomic changes, are all due to the fact that your blood vessels are not working. So the VascuCare, CoQ10, and CoQ10 ubiquinol are very important to restore that mitochondrial catalyst, uridine, cytidine-choline, and will help to increase your mitochondrial function, as well as NADH, which is nicotine and adenine dinucleotide hydride. Your cells make ATP and NADH in order to produce your energy, and if you take NADH tablets, it's going to amplify this effect. For your vascular health, too, you want to take ellagic acid, which heals the vessel walls. You can do a B-scan ultrasound, and you can see the actual plaque disappearing in someone's carotid arteries and so on. If you use ellagic acid, the Omega Supreme Krill especially, and Vein-Away, which is a diosmin at the right nanoparticle size. Vein-Away is amazing. And A lot of time people have increased blood viscosity. You can pick it up on a QRMA test or a viscometer with a thing called Rheologics. That's RHEOLOGICS test. Your doctor can send the test in to look at blood viscosity. It's beyond measuring C-reactive protein or sed rate, or even a more advanced test called PI1, or plasminogen activator inhibitor 1. I was a consultant for even subspecialist with a Rheologic viscometer in my office with dual lasers in Denver, and I would even see hematologists sending me cases and internists, and they didn't understand that the activation of soluble ICAM 1 and 2 platelet activation factors and specific genes actually that cause heart disease. And so heart disease is an inflammatory condition, so is diabetes, so they're all linked together. You also have to calm the nervous system down, which is why we use Calm Mind and Brain Mag, 1 scoop at least 3 times a day. And you can also use Mood Elevator, which is Posinol, which is a autonomic, you would call adaptogenic, because if you don't take off the fluid, and by the way, the way to take off the excess fluid is high-dose Power C, at least 3 capsules, twice a day to 3 times a day, and the Vein Away will help pull off that excess fluid. Use that first. If your doctor is giving you Lasix or other things, only use it sparingly as lowest dosage a couple times a week. You want to stay off it or get off it altogether because your electrolytes will get totally screwed up. And that's why we recommend magnesium glycinate, 3 to 4 capsules twice a day, and magnesium potassium citrate for your potassium. But you got to make sure your electrolytes are good, and you take your Vitamin Mineral Max and Minerals Plus, because you're going to pull out the good minerals too if you're not taking care. Your questions, 800-313-9443. I will tackle any problem, anywhere, any continent, with any doctor. 800-313-9443. And don't suffer to be exposed to just one aspect of healthcare, whether it's chiropractic, herbology, allopathic medicine. There's some good things in all of them, but you have to have judgment, and that's where we provide this information here at NutriMedical. And if you're a regular customer, you get access to our wellness conditions. Even if you're a professional, you have to be a regular customer. You will not get access. You can't buy your way in. Gatekeeper is Michelle. And by the way, she'll be here in about a half an hour to deal with your questions on calling into our order line, 888-212-8871. I've got a lot of new upgrades we're doing. We're going to be now putting all of the wellness conditions going backwards with all the more recent updates of all the wellness conditions on video, and those will be on video on demand over on our Vimeo channel, so that anybody can purchase the view looking at the wellness conditions there for a fee of anywhere from $3 to $7 a view. We're setting it up so that people will have access to information on the products with product videos as well, and we're also working on bringing in new products and new nutraceutical technologies to round out our what we call our online, you call virtual wellness health center. In other words, and I'm also trying to spread this word out. For example, I freely offer training health professionals of any kind, whether you're a professional trainer, chiropractor, MD, DO, to add this to your practice. And it doesn't matter if you're an intensivist in a burn unit, or you're a chiropractor or a biological dentist. I can improve how you practice. For example, I recently spoke to my dentist, who's Dr. Jeffrey Curbs, to improve his technology for measuring pre- and post-removal of mercury amalgams. And unfortunately, most people don't realize when you're removing mercury, you've got to be careful to not remove it too quickly and to also take detoxification steps so that mercury, once it's mobilized, won't cause damage. So you start off with simple things like BioLVR, which is a combination of activated B6 and folic acid and B12. You can bump up by adding Power Methyl B12 orange flavored tablets under the tongue and superfolate. And the big guy for pulling out heavy metals is Chelor Max and Samethyl. Samethyl, of course, methylation is a primary pathway for pulling out heavy metals. Chelor Max, 2 to 3 capsules twice a day. And we have our liquid ultra zeolite, which is the only non-acid wash zeolite in the Western world. It's also a better price than anybody else's zeolite. 13 drops in water 3 times a day. To pull out chemicals, you want to use xenoestrogen detox, and I would strongly recommend you take at least a capsule to 2 capsules twice a day if you find xenotoxins, if you had a toxicological test done. By the way, if you want to measure it even in breath, we can arrange for you to give a breath test with the Environmental Health Center of Dallas, so you can send a breath kit to you. Or you can do toxicological blood tests. We have toxicology labs that can do that for you in either red or red cell membranes. We used to do it even with fat biopsies, but the red and white cell membrane works perfectly fine. For detoxification also, NutriDefense, which is anhydrous catechin, is very important for pulling out or chelating out the toxins with the polyphenol, which is our most powerful antioxidant. The next one, of course, is the astaxanthin and Omega Supreme Krill. I used to tell people, take 2 twice a day and call me in a century when you're a century old, because that's how much it's going to help your health. And the same way with Cell Defense Plus, which is very amazing. Everybody should be on that. Now, in terms of weight loss, we are now discovering that it's a ratio of insulin to IGF-1. So the first thing we recommend in weight loss is to use a meal substitute, Glycemics. You substitute 2 meals and 2 snacks a day with Glycemics. You can add other things to it if you want to, like Brain Mag to calm the nervous system down. I strongly recommend HGH Microdose, which is actual human growth hormone, but it's 100 nanograms, which is a microscopic or homeopathic dosage. 5 sprays under the tongue 4 times a day will dramatically increase your levels of IGF-1, which your liver makes from the growth hormone from your brain. And IGF-1 literally turns white fat into brown fat, burns off calories. It's the primary, we call, weight loss hormone. And leptin metabolic will change your leptin and insulin resistance. Extremely important. Take at least 1 capsule in the morning. If early, you can actually take 1 twice a day, but 1 a day is enough. Cell Defense Plus and Forskolin work on converting white fat to brown fat. Cell Defense Plus, 2 capsules 3 times a day, and Forskolin at least 2 capsules twice a day. Don't take Forskolin too late, because you'll be like the Energizer Bunny. It helps to increase the rate of outer ring 5'-deiodination along with nutriodine, selenium cruciferate, and our minerals and Minerals Plus. A lot of people basically are hypo-metabolic as well, so they basically have type 2 hypothyroidism. Their levels of reverse thyroid hormone are high, so if you do a test, if someone has a hard time losing weight, get your doctor to order not only a free T4 and free T3, but a free reverse T3, which is covered by both LabCorp and Quest and other labs. And the RT3 levels, if it's high, you got to get it down. And the ways is our nutraceuticals here I just mentioned. You want to lower insulin resistance with diabetoline and berberstatin. Diabetoline will lower insulin, and berberstatin will lower glucagon, because your liver literally overnight and during the day turns protein back into sugar, which is not good. And that, of course, causes your insulin to go up. And, of course, it's a race around. A lot of people are hypothyroid, so they need to take mitothyroid, nutriodine, 10 drops twice a day. The mitothyroid is 2 capsules in the morning. You may also repeat it 2 in the afternoon if the thyroid is still low or the person has a low first morning temperature. Selenium cruciferate, and also for mobilizing fat, LipoFlush, which is conjugated linoleic acid. I strongly recommend the VibraSlim exercise with light adjustable weights and body elastic bands. We're also looking at another vibrational technology here we'll be launching here shortly, and I'll be announcing that in the next few weeks. But these VibraSlim is very inexpensive. It's $12.99 with U.S. Shipping included. We ship worldwide. We have warehouses all over the planet. And this is an excellent technology to boost your metabolism rate, your release of growth hormone, your mobilization of lipids and fluid from your body. It's pretty amazing. And if you have problems like heart failure, hypertension, or perfusion problems, this is an essential exercise. No matter what else you do, walking, running, you need to do vibrational exercise. We get sometimes requests for unusual tumor issues. One of them is the pituitary gland tumors. We talked about malignant rest, ellagic acid, malignant block, power C before. Particularly for the brain, you want to take Brain Mag and Cell Defense Plus, and of course for the brain also, you want to take things to help turn off the free radical, which is cell detox glutathione, selenium cruciferate, and Nutritrala, and the other minerals that work with that. We, of course, use other gene-based off-label drug therapies, nutraceutical therapies, mild hyperbaric with a ketogenic diet, and lymphocyte activation therapies. Never do radiation therapy or proton therapy for brain cancer. And remember, you want to monitor hormone levels to see if it's a benign tumor that's not increasing in size and causing anatomical problems. A lot of time we overtreat based on anatomy, based on an abnormal MRI, when in fact it's not a lethal condition, and a lot of people have problems that the best therapy, if it's not we call malignant tumor growing fast, is actually to leave it alone and do nutraceutical modulation to make sure it doesn't do a malignant transformation or cause anatomical problems or hormonal problems by just monitoring. So sometimes we have to just use common sense in monitoring rather than racing in. Andropause, this is male menopause. Men's Max, 4 capsules in the morning. Hormone Synergy, 2 capsules in the morning to prevent you converting whatever male hormone you do release from your sex hormone binding globulin converted to female, prostate flow, and xenoestrogen detox, and NutriDefense. And DHEA pregnenolone is the pre-hormones for your adrenal glands and your male hormones, your testicles, and voila, you are no longer in andropause. And you can monitor it with a QRMA machine or saliva test, which I can send you the links to get the test kits with saliva. If you're back, we have Mike in Kentucky. You have a question regarding thyroid. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, I just found out a friend has had to go off with some kind of prescription for thyroid supplement, and I don't know if it was the Synthroid or if it was a glandular extract problem, but I was looking through your webpage, and I saw some interesting stuff that you've got there, like the mineral supplement for thyroid. What's the deal with that?
Well, firstly, your body makes... I think I can hear a background. I don't know.
Not from me.
I can
Somebody
hear
else, I hear it too, but it's not coming from me.
Yeah, I don't know if it's an open mic. There it was in the studio. Mike, what happens is thyroid is we call the mitochondrial hormones. And T3 is 4,000 times more avidly attached to the crystal gallia of the mitochondria to open oxidative phosphorylation to convert and make energy, ATP and NADH. And you need both, by the way, and that's why we have our NADH tablets. You want to take a glandular. The Armour Thyroid is what doctors have been using for years. Unfortunately,
what did you say that slowly, please?
Armour, A-R-M-O-U-R. Armour Thyroid has titanium polymers and cornstarch. And it's not as high quality. What you want to do is you want to take mitothyroid, 2 capsules in the morning.
How are you spelling that?
Mito, M-I-T-O, thyroid, T-H-Y-R-O-I-D. And you take 2 capsules in the morning. You may also repeat in the afternoon. You want to measure AM first thing in the morning before you move your muscles and twitch and create heat. Temperature log. And if your temperature's low, you're hypometabolic, and it's a better term than hypothyroid because for every person
I've had that problem for years. I'm running around 96.8 or something, way low.
Everybody that's hypothyroid, the vast majority of them are pre-diabetic, and if you measure fasting blood sugar, blood insulin levels, you find they're higher than 2 microunits per ml, which means they're developing some degree of insulin resistance. Plus they'll lose their ability to produce nitric oxide synthase and superoxide dismutase, because diabetes is not a sugar disease.
And what I was going to ask, though, on that is exposures to fluorides from tea and the tap water.
They create basically a different form of thyroid hormone that instead
you can't
of T3,
even use.
Yeah, instead of T3 iodine, it's T3 fluoride.
So it blocks, and when you tested for your thyroid levels, it shows that you've got thyroid, but your body can't even use it because it's the wrong halogen.
Exactly, you're a very smart guy. And the next thing that you can measure is what's called free RT3, your reverse thyroid hormone. And if your RT3 is high, even your TSH test is useless. So the average doctor, even endocrinologists that do this, and I've been doing work for more than a third of a century on this. I brought the reverse T3 test from Germany and worked with the head of pathology many years ago. And I can tell you, I'm putting out more books on this because I consult with doctors. Basically, most of the doctors in the world do not know what the hell they're doing with this.
Exactly, they're not taught this stuff. They're not
taught it. Okay, they also don't understand that everybody who's pre-diabetic or diabetic or you have high insulin, anybody who's hypertensive is a pre-diabetic. Okay.
Well, the other
everybody with a
about
lipid disorder is a pre-diabetic, and they all have mitochondrial dysfunction. They all have lost superoxide dismutase, so enzymes 1 and 2, and tetrahydrobiopterin in their blood vessel walls, and they have deficiency of nitric oxide synthase.
Well, she's got a doctor trying to tell her she's got adrenal fatigue. Is that
right? And they often go together. You think of 2 horses pulling a plow, your adrenals and your thyroid.
Well, doesn't that also lead to heart failure eventually?
Yes, yeah. In fact, everybody with hypertension and eventually heart failure, because anybody who's hypertensive is what I call stage 0 heart failure.
I don't think she has hypertension yet, but
no, you don't have to. The problem is the first thing that happens is decreased perfusion. Long before you get hypertension, you get decreased perfusion, and you can do a perfusion test now with an endopat and endothelix. And if your rebound vascular flow after you do a compression of your vessels and you say your arm for 5 minutes,
are you talking about what they call pitting edema?
No, this is an actual test done by a cardiologist now called an endopat and endothelix. It measures the temperature of the blood flow in your capillaries and your fingertip, and it'll actually tell you physiologically if you're producing enough rebound blood flow in your capillaries. So
hyperbaric chamber will help with this reperfusion problems?
Yeah, but before you get to that, there's nutraceuticals. In many cases, all you have to do is the nutraceuticals.
Well, she has a relative that's got autism, and I supposedly on the spectrum, and I'd heard about the hyperbaric chambers might help with that. So
it's very helpful. Yeah, it's extremely helpful.
So they could both benefit, maybe.
Absolutely.
You got some big enough now. They've got some big enough now for an aunt and a nephew or an aunt.
Are you kidding? You can have chambers big enough they're 10 feet long for 3 or 4 kids and a mother or two.
Yeah, but they get really expensive though.
Yeah.
Right.
No, they're not. Actually, you can lease them, and it's a few $100 a month and
$300 a month.
Yeah, it's a couple $100 a month, $200 or $300.
And that's the ones with the heat exchangers to get the moisture out of there.
Everything's got all the bells and whistles, and they got the best ones now.
Well, so the last thing I wanted to...
Well, let me finish on the thyroid first before you get to keep your question. Don't worry, we've got time. Number one, you want to be a mitothyroid, thyroid, adrenal, and hypothalamus.
I got that.
Want to take our mitothyroid, which is the only... You hear Alex Jones and everybody else saying that they got their iodine. They're full of it.
I never listen to him anymore.
I have the only engineer in the world that knows how to make it, and it's dangerous as hell. He's a NASA contract engineer. And you also have to have 7 minerals, including selenium and an organic chelate. If you take sodium selenite and so on, these are toxic and dangerous. You want to take selenium as a cruciferate. You want to have also all the trace minerals in our Minerals Plus and Vitamin Mineral Max in order to be outer ring 5' deiodination. And you need to take the monatomic iodine. If you do that, and you can also increase outer ring deiodination with forskolin, Coleus forskolii. It increases outer ring deiodination. You can measure free T4, free T3, and free reverse T3 at a high sensitivity TSH, and do a body temperature log. And if you don't do all those things, your doctor is completely incompetent, because hypometabolic disorders are the leading cause of dementia, the leading cause of heart disease, and the leading cause is that people get hypertensive and eventually turn diabetic and get peripheral neuropathy.
I don't think this gal's even got past the gatekeepers to get to an endocrinologist. So
no, it wouldn't matter. The endocrinologists don't know this either. Well, I'm going to ask you, how many endocrinologists are measuring RT3? And it's available at LabCorp and Quest. If you ask for an RT3, they'll do it. But how many?
What's the lab? What did you say, lab?
It's LabCorp or Quest. Those standard labs. LabCorp and Quest. By the way, you don't have to go to a lab. You can basically have someone come to your kitchen called a mobile blood tech, and you can get the test kits from labs like Doctors Data and Genova Labs and other labs that we have, like the McGuffey Labs, and they'll send a test kit to you, and you can have a mobile blood tech come, and their doctors will sign off on it, and then you can send the results to me, and I can tell you what they mean.
Well, she needs to probably switch, and a lot of people need to switch off to some organic sources for things, because I was shocked about a year ago to find out.
They need to switch to NutriMeds. They need to stop. Doctors out there, they're even playing around with starting functional medicine. I've been doing this for 40 years.
I was shocked to find out that raisins have 3 times more fluoride in them than tea or water, because they spray them with some of these pesticides that have fluoride in them.
And also a lot of countries use fluoridated pesticides on even the wine. So a lot of countries like France,
you can't drink wine, yeah.
Right, yeah, unless you have a non-fluoridated wine. By the way, in California, the wines are not fluoridated.
What?
Yeah, California. Now, so she may need adrenal too, and the way to test adrenal is saliva tests, and you measure your saliva hormones for DHEA, cortisol, and melatonin. And the melatonin is released by your brain every 180 minutes during the day and at night. And if you don't have a diurnal pattern, so you get saliva tests at different time periods during the day, and it'll tell you what's going on with your hormone levels if you have a normal diurnal pattern regulated by your hypothalamus and pituitary gland. And the conventional average doctors, unless they belong to our Academy of Advancement in Medicine, anti-age medicine, or environmental medicine, they are in the dark and they are dangerous to your health. Now, there are places for drugs. It's a very small place, 10 to 20% of the time, usually for acute cases or very minimal. For example, I tell people if you're not yet controlling your fluid retention and you're in hypertension and heart failure, you might need a little bit of Lasix, maybe once or twice a week, a small dosage. But you want to think about.
What do you think
about? But you want to get off them. You want to get off these things as much as possible because they all have horrible effects. Never take statin drugs. Never take calcium channel blockers ever. Never take synthetic thyroid. Never take beta blockers.
What do you think about wild grapes and organic grapes with the seeds and skins? I was able to lower my blood pressure by about 15 to 20 points.
Oh yeah, they're all helpful. But remember, it's not just lowering pressure. You got to improve perfusion. A lot of time people will lower their pressure with conventional drugs, but their perfusion is dropping too. And if you overtreat hypertension, your perfusion will drop, and you increase the risk of a sudden cardiac event or arrhythmia or death. So she may need adrenal support, like adrenal gland support or adrenal gland support capsules, and DHEA and pregnenolone transdermal liposomal creams in order to maintain her adrenal function. And you can quantify it. You can actually measure it in saliva. You can do the test for the blood test for the T3, reverse T3, and TSH.
Do you have any? Do you have a list anywhere of like associates across the country where she could maybe find a consult?
But remember now, 95% of the doctors, even in these academies, are just starting in the last few years, or they're kind of gone to a weekend seminar in Las Vegas. What I do is act as a senior consultant. And if you go to her, if you contact me by email, I can show you the Academy of the American College for Advancement in Medicine, the American Academy of Environmental Medicine, American College for Anti-Aging Medicine. You need to get a doctor in one of these or more academies. I belong to all three. And then I'll act as a senior consultant, and you can get all your nutraceuticals from me because I can tell you exactly what to take. I'll tell you what drugs are safe to take at minimum dosage as you're transitioning. And some of the drugs you can't stop right away. They're dangerous. If you are on beta blockers, you can't stop it quickly. You're going to have to take 3 to 6 months to get off it.
I don't think she's on any of that.
Right. And the problem is beta blockers also mess your thyroid up, and they interfere with mitochondrial metabolism.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's all kinds of weird side effects that people don't know about.
Well, the problem is, you see, the doctors, for every symptom and everything that they measure wrong, they're going to chase you with a drug to make the symptoms go away and say, oh, I feel the symptoms gone. Maybe your fluid's off and your blood pressure's down, but now you're impotent and you feel stupid and your hair's falling out and you wonder what the hell's going on, because they take away some symptoms and then they make a lot of other things worse, and in the long run they may not reduce the incidence of a cardiac event that'll kill you.
Did you catch I think it's this week, there was a whole new thing about statin drugs being completely useless for anybody over 70 or 60 or something. Well,
not only that, the research now, and there's lawsuits, that any woman taking statin drugs increases by 200% the chances of turning diabetic.
Yeah, I know. Diabetes. I have an uncle that probably his estate needs to sue the crap out. He went through 7 or different...
Doesn't matter. It's the cost of business. He can sue and he can get his money. But the fact that the drug companies, and I know I did talks for Searle Pharmaceutical, and they gave me a live slide set because they did rheumatology research back in the 70s with the head of the American and Canadian Arthritis Association, Dr. John Woodbury, one of the top guys in the world. And he wanted me to become, he was trying to blackmail me to become his resident because he knew I'd find a cause of autoimmune disease, which I have. And I'm going to publish it this year because nobody else even knows what I know about this, about hexose monophosphate shunt and the production of cell antigens and so on. And I'm going to release this information just way. I'm also going to release information on my research over 36 years of diabetes. That's why I went into medicine. And diabetes, which is, by the way, tied back to the thyroid, diabetes is now, according to UCLA, a month and a half ago, their research, 69% of the population over age 30 are either pre-diabetic or diabetic in California, and that's a good representation of America or the West.
Yeah, and that's a fairly healthy state to live in. But have you caught this, the scandal over hydrogenated vegetable oil? Where they
it's horrendous. And a lot of the vegetable oil, if you go to a lot of the chain restaurants, they're using hydrogenated, not only hydrogenated vegetable oil, they're using things like soy oil, and GMO oils are toxic. And a lot of them, for example, contain ricinic acid, which is extremely inflammatory.
And every time they reheat it, it increases the cancer-causing, I can't remember the name of the chemical that
trans fatty acids.
There's a
it's called melanyl dialdehyde is what it is.
It also it helps to gum up the cell walls and block up the insulin pathways, is what I've understood.
Right, the GLUT4 transporter pathways and also your cell membrane biophotonic transfer of information from the environment to your DNA.
They gave them a permit process so they can continue.
Listen, the FDA is fatal drugs allowed. That's why, let me explain. I'm a professor and teach in the Academy of Anti-Aging Environmental Advancement in Medicine. I've been at this longer than probably anybody on the planet. I was an environmentalist in 1973 when I was working on my PhD in marine bacteriology, which I did in 5 months by sleeping on the lab floor. I didn't write the thesis, do the thesis, but I finished the project. And I went into medicine because my grandfather was dying of diabetes, and he was a bad guy from eating candy. He's a jeweler and very wealthy. In fact, before the revolution, he had a suite beside Frank Sinatra in the Copacabana in Cuba, and he'd go down there for winter for 4 months every year.
Nickel and mercury, he got exposed to a lot of heavy metals, I bet, being a jeweler.
I'm sure he did, yeah. Now, the problem is, you see, diabetes, they lose the transport for copper and zinc and vanadium and chromium. And when they lose that, they lose superoxide dismutase, and the insulin resistance goes up. But the primary cause of diabetes is not sugar. Sugar is just a bystander that's a good patch to grab single oxygen. The primary cause of diabetes is loss of superoxide dismutase in their tissues. And when you lose SOD1 and 2 isoenzymes, you get increased levels of singlet oxygen, hydroperoxy, nitroperoxy radical, which causes all the illness. The glycosylated proteins and hemoglobin A1C are simply grabbing the singlet oxygen with sugar, because it's a good patch. And in fact, your insulin resistance goes down when you give people glutathione peroxidase. They've done recent studies as much as the last week they published that if you give mice glutathione peroxidase, which is why we say take cell detox glutathione and Nutritrala and antioxidants like our Omega Supreme Krill, and once you get rid of the free radicals, the insulin resistance starts to reverse with things like our leptin, metabolic, diabetyline, and biotin plus.
How in the world did you make the krill oil kosher? That was a joke.
Yeah. First off, the word kosher is a general rule that was given in ancient Israel because the shellfish they had were from the Red Sea, and they often had red tide, which forms domoic acid that blocks non-competitively the acetylcholinesterase receptor, and if it damages your hippocampus and destroys your ability to create memories and become demented. So
your krill oil is probably okayed by several rabbis.
Well, no. What happens is, I wouldn't say that. If you're a purist, what I would say is it's the only company in Antarctica that uses a special low temperature technique, and it took us years to find the one company that did it.
So it doesn't destroy
it doesn't destroy the astaxanthin, because literally the most powerful antioxidants is in our NutriDefense, the polyphenol, and in 20 years of research, not one person taking it got prostate cancer. So NutriDefense is really important to take every day. So Omega Supreme Krill and our goji berry and our NutriComplete is the third most powerful antioxidant we have.
You should take that with your what you call it, the
Glycemix and Life Support Ageless drink.
No, I was thinking the mustard additive, turmeric or curcuminoids are supposed to be good for the prostate and other cancers.
Yeah, well, we have the best one in the world is our specific technology, which is Cell Defense Plus. If you take it, it gets rid of cancer mother cells. It reverses DNA damage. It's amazing. Cell Defense Plus.
Man, I'm sending her this info. So I'm hoping she'll put the ball in her park and get her to contact you.
Right. Brian is coming up next from Toronto. He has a couple of very important points about wives of firefighters dying. And we have a firefighter from Toronto, retired. Brian, you got a very important comment to make about the wives of firefighters. Tell us this story.
Okay. It was my dad's birthday on the weekend, and we had, I threw a house party, and we had everybody over here. And it just seemed that there was a table of all his buddies, and these are all about the same age, 80 years old, 76, up, and all their wives have died.
Right.
So you're looking at firefighters, and you're expecting that, we take in so many toxins when we do the job, and it can be absorbed through our skin, or we can inhale it, and the older guys used to inhale more.
Right.
Because, that's the way it is. But all of a sudden, they're all looking at each other and they're going, where's the women? The women usually last longer than the men. Many times the women were even younger than the guys by 2 or 3 years. And now they're all widowers.
I'll explain the process of toxicology and cellular adaptation. If you get a constant trickle of toxins, let's say you live in a Western world, or you live in China and you're living in Beijing and you haven't seen the sun in 30 years, your body's constantly being exposed to rubber dust and toxic fumes and nitric oxide and everything. But your body develops what's called a zone of compensation because of the constant trickle. And if it maintains that zone of compensation, you're not really optimal health, but you're not dying. Oftentimes, a bigger challenge is the rate of change of the toxins. For example, and I warn people about this, when they go to a biological dentist and they pull the mercury amalgams, you've got to be on detox, and you've got to make sure you grab those mobilized toxins very quickly because they'll cause a lot of bystander damage. Now think of it. The wives are home. They get all the dirty clothes from the firefighters. They put them in the laundry machines. They put them in the washer and dryer, and all of a sudden there's a big surge of these chemicals. They go from a relatively clean environment in the rest of the house to being blasted. And as a result, they're also right beside their husband who's outgassing all night long while they're laying in bed because their body's just literally releasing these toxins through their skin, because remember, it's the third detox organ. Your first is liver, second is kidneys, third is skin. So you're going to vent these things off in the home. Now, as you're doing that, you challenge the person and you go from zero to bam, a lot of toxins. The person's response is a high level of free radical damage and DNA damage and activation of cancer cell transformation. So it's the rate of change is actually in many ways more dangerous than the constant trickle. That's why they're dying.
Okay. Well, another thing with firefighters too is that years ago, this is not that long ago, maybe 10 or 15 years ago, because they started saying to us, don't take your clothes home. Wash them at home, especially if your wife's pregnant, because they were finding that they were getting an adverse, larger amount of miscarriages in wives of firefighters.
That's right, because the baby is 10 million times more sensitive to the toxicological acute surge of toxins to the placenta and to the uterus and to the baby. So when someone has not got much exposure, and it also goes in converse. My father worked as he was not only trained as a jeweler, but also he worked as an instrumentation fitter in nuclear plants, pulp and paper mills, heavy water plants, and toxic, we call oil refineries. And he got exposed to a lot of bad toxins. It was when he retired and his body's dumping all these things quickly over a matter of a couple of years that his health, all of a sudden he had a heart attack at ideal weight and died suddenly after 3 days of lingering with heart surgery before he expired. And it's caused by the body dumping very quickly the toxins. So you go from a stable toxic state to a unstable detoxification state without proper support, and that's more dangerous, believe it or not, than leaving the toxins in place. Interesting, eh?
Oh, yeah.
So you got to buffer and protect someone, including the wives of people exposed or other people around them. And you got to, when you have somebody leave a job site, you got to detox them properly, or they will die from a horrible disease, heart disease, stroke, or dementia caused by the toxins coming out.